Thomas Green here with Ethical Marketing Service. On the podcast today, we have Gavin Cameron. Gavin, welcome.
Morning. How you doing?
I'm marvellous. What about yourself?
I'm not bad, not bad. It's been a good month. March has been a bit more normal than previous months, so yeah, happy.
Normality is approaching. Would you like to take a moment and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Gavin Cameron. Founder and managing director of Car Buying Guru. We're what we coin as a digital dealership. So our aim is to give the power back to car buyers by providing them a more transparent way of buying a vehicle. We also are mainly based online, hence why it's digital. So you can buy a car from the comfort of your own home. We do all our communication via WhatsApp, the phone, email, and then we deliver the car to your home as well. Established in 2017, so we're in our fourth year, or we're coming up to our fourth birthday, as far as HMRC is concerned and Company's House. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a good journey. Been in the industry, motor trade, for about 10 years now, and 4 of them as a self-employed business owner. So it's good. It's good stuff.
Well, I wanted to start exactly where you just ended, if that's okay. So before the company was started, what were you doing? And what was the catalyst which made you think, okay, maybe I can do this myself? Did you always intend on going into business?
I've wanted to be a business owner as long as I can remember, really. I've always found something really intriguing about entrepreneurship. I grew up in a time and a place in an area where everyone was into music, everyone wanted to be a musician. But I found myself very much interested in the business side of music. So music management, something I dabbled in for a while. I did events management, event promotion. I never really wanted to be in the limelight. But like I said, I always wanted to, I don't know, there's something about being a business owner that intrigued me. I think family members owning businesses around me as well, something that influenced it. It was something that wasn't foreign in my household. So yeah, it's just something that I kind of gravitated to as a younger person. Always studied business in school, done business studies as GCSEs, studied business at college, went on did business management at university, and then actually did business in real world as well, in real life. So yeah.
Would you say, I might be reading into this, but would you say you've got quite a inclination for independence? Because I can very much relate to that.
Yeah, I was we're looking back more so recently when I reflect on like being a teenager, especially. I was a bit. I had friends. I'm not going to tell you because I was Billy No Mates. I did have friends, but I always seemed to be the odd one out of the group. I always wanted to do stuff different. I wanted to do my own thing. Had my own way of thinking. I don't really know where that came from. I guess it's from my upbringing. But yeah, I am independent. Even with work, I always felt like I knew a better way to do things. Always looked at things from a different angle to the employers, sorry, and their handbooks and their manuals and their guidance. And just being able to be independent and be able to do my own thing has always been something that has kind of been important to me and still is important to me.
So you say that you were in the motor trade before. What were you doing?
I started off selling cars over the phone.
Okay.
I did that for about 6 months to a year. And then after that, I became, what did I do after that? I went into a dealership as a salesperson and I was selling cars in the dealership. And then after that, I became a business manager. And that's where I really learned about car finance and some of the tools I use today in the business. So it was kind of like I took the ladder to where I am now. So I started off in the office trying to handle inquiries over the phone. And then after that, I did become a business manager and actually ran my own team. Was quite successful with it as well. We won awards, so I think we earned the most that year. I think it was 2018. We earned the most for sales and net income for just over 1 million, 1.2 million, for a franchise dealer with like 150 garages. So that was quite an achievement.
Very good. I think it's always beneficial for any business owner to have some sales experience because you already kind of know that you can generate that revenue. And I think that with a lot of business owners who, let's say, they don't make it, I think that the issue is lack of sales there. So I think, would you say that's really helped you in your business endeavors?
Yeah, gift and a curse. So I think some of those people that struggle with the sales, they tend to be good at admin and all the paperwork side of it. And if anything, like me and my colleagues that I used to work with are an example of salespeople, we were all terrible when it comes to admin. So get the sales in, but it's the paperwork that's associated with running your own business. I hate it, to be honest with you. I absolutely despise it. I have to outsource it and pay people to do it for me. But yeah, I
So,
mean, if you can't sell, then you can't earn money at the end of the day.
mm. So you're in management side of things, which probably helped with the running of your current business. What was the
Hmm.
thing which spurred you to go into your own business?
Um, I didn't see any progression in the business I was working in. Like I said, we outperformed, my department was outperforming people across the whole country. And I was just never really given an opportunity to step up the ladder. And like I said, I had that entrepreneurial spirit from a young age. So I kind of got forced in the position of, look, you either to progress. I don't like standing still. I like to always do better than I did last year. Kind of run it on a 12-month basis. If I feel like I'm going backwards or stagnant, then I feel uneasy.
Mm.
So it kind of just, I weren't able to go any further within the business. I didn't necessarily want to go and start again at another company, just to be in the same position in 12 months time or whatever. So I thought now is better time than any to go and start my own business, and that's kind of what spurred me on.
So what was the handing in your notice like?
Um, it was it was a fight. Do you know what? I've been asked this before. A lot of people say, "Isn't that scary? Wasn't it scary?" It didn't scare me. I think I live in this weird mentality that nothing's really real until it becomes real. So when I handed in my notice, I'm just handing my notice. I'm just giving you a letter essentially. It wasn't until my last day of work or my first day of self-employment that I really sat down and thought, "Oh God, that I've actually done this." Um, so the actual handing of my notice, it was easy. It was a weird one because of how the business is set up. It's you know, the news is going to travel like wildfire, and people are going to come up to you and ask you 100 questions and what you're doing. And I was seen as stepping away from a lot of money. You got company perks and all the rest of it, so I was seen as crazy at the time. But that was a bit hard to deal with. I knew that was coming, and I'm not really one to like to have the same conversation over and over again. But I knew I'd have to because there was a lot of people working in the company that want to know. And I couldn't hold a press conference because I'd shown too much of my ego. So yeah, it was easy for me. The difficult part, like I said, was just talking to people over and over again about the same thing, talking about my plans, which I wasn't even 100% sure of at the time. I was kind of just going to work it out, or we worked it out as we went along. So
So
it
you
was
did
those.
have you had people who were what concerned for you or worried about what you were going to do?
Some were concerned, some were laughing at me, to be honest. Some thought it was silly. How are you going to go and sell cars online? Doesn't make sense. No one wants to buy a car online. And then we're in 2021 and everyone has to buy cars online because of COVID-19. So yeah, it was weird. It was a weird period, and it made me learn a lot about myself, and how I can't or don't let people's opinions affect my plans, and kind of use that to my advantage.
Mm. I remember it's a while ago now, but I remember a particular comment when I went, and someone said to me, "You'll be back."
Yeah, they. So this is the thing. So they didn't say it to me, but I remember there's a few people that said, yeah, just no one guy actually said, yeah, go and get it out your system. Being an entrepreneur, just get it out your system, and then you'll be back. Or 3 to 6 months, you'll be back. And it's like, okay. I don't think they realized how much I hated being in that position at that point. It was draining.
Ah, right. So it wasn't just that it was lack of career progression. It was very much you were
It was,
being called to do something else.
yeah, exactly. And it was just like it was the whole. It just wasn't cutting it for me anymore. The money was great, and I don't know if you how much you'd agree with this, but being even if you're not earning as much money, that independence and that creative side of you that comes out when you are self-employed and when you're running and building your own business. That for me is priceless, and I think that's what sort of I needed at that point without even knowing it.
Would you say you left on good terms?
Yeah. They offered me my job back a few times.
Okay. They
Yeah,
must have needed you then.
I think I'd, a little bit. Yeah, in fact, yeah, they did need me. um, I think it was more just a case of they didn't see me becoming, I don't know, they didn't see me on the level of like an auto trader or some of these big businesses, and they try to lure you back with money. It's all about money in the motor trade. How much you earning, what car you driving, what watch have you got on, etc. Um, and they didn't understand why I was not um, going back.
Mm,
Plus, if I go back, I can earn the business money, which as further on up the ladder you go, you get a percentage of what the overall company worth. So a lot of them just looked at me as like a paycheck because I was good at what I did. I'm good at what I do. And if I could do it independently and I was making some progress independently, if I come back into the business, share ideas, etc., obviously they can get a slice of the pie as well.
yeah. So, how long was the notice period, and could you get any progress towards your business in that time frame?
This is one of the main reasons, if I'm being totally honest, was it's a conflict of interest. So there's a point I started the business in say December 2016, and I'll be looking at customers and I'll be thinking I've set this business up now where I could make more money selling you a car independently than doing what I'm doing for my employer.
Mm,
So I was doing little bits and pieces, but I could never really build the business. But then handed in my notice at the end of January, and we get paid bonuses on a quarterly basis. So the notice period was meant to be 4 weeks, but I said to them, out of the goodness of my heart, I'd work for till the end of March. When the truth be told is just I wanted to get the bonus at the end of April when obviously the quarterly bonuses were being paid, because that would be like an extra month's wages for me. Um, but in that time, because they knew what I was doing, obviously they asked 101 questions and the cat was out of the bag. I could also, whilst working my notice period, I could actually build my business freely now. I could do the stuff on social media. I could scream and shout about what I was going to do and how I was doing it, without being worried I was going to get sacked because I've already
mm.
handed my in. And the best they could do was give me gardening leave at that point. So yeah, I was able to work on my business a lot more once handed in my notice. Um, and like I said, I voluntarily did an extra 4 weeks, so I did 8 weeks in total.
Okay. And how much had you got done when you actually left for your business?
So we started as a franchise. So we're fully independent now, but we started as a franchise, and I was able to get the franchise in place, get logo done, get a lot of marketing, get your social media presence in place. So like that's when Instagram was just starting to really take off. So we started building on the Instagram profile, getting Facebook in, all the marketing adverts, and getting like a plan in place on how we was going to market. And we actually got 1 or 2 clients. I always remember the first Monday after. So I finished work on a Friday, and then the Monday after, I got a check in the post from my first customer, which was nice. Um, so yeah, it didn't happen every day after that, but to start off with being shown that the plan I had actually earns you money, because that's what we do it for at the end of the day. You can't be in business if you're not earning.
Mm.
Nice. So we did actually start selling as well.
You tell
Um,
me about the first client, how that came in.
it was my business partner's a friend of my business partner, and she needed a car, and she wanted someone to source it for her, and I used some of my contacts that I had in the business to find the car she wanted. Um, Liaised with her over the phone, and literally got an idea of how I can work. I describe myself easiest as a personal shopper for cars. So I would go around. I found the car, sent her the pictures, sent her the details of the vehicle, and then we we then had the car. Oh, no, she picked that one up. So she went and picked up the car, and then I was paid a commission by the dealership that we did it for introducing the business. So it was pretty straightforward, that one. It was more of a referral or a friend, as some businesses do start. And then after that, we started to get more from advertising and doing our social media stuff, more
Mm.
inquiry. that way.
Is there any juggling of, I'm kind of at work, but I'm also thinking about this inquiry or this client that I've got to look after?
Yeah, I was constantly having like to get up from my desk and answer the phone. I had two phones. Because I had a business line. I can't remember what happened to that actually. I had a business number, and so he's asking why have you got two phones. Before I told him I was handing my notice and what I was doing, like trying to work out why have you got a second phone. It's weird. So yeah, it was a lot of that. I'd see my phone ringing whilst I was on the work phone and wondering what that was, and am I losing money that way? So it's stuff like that that may really force my hand with the resignation, because you can't live like that really. You've
Mm.
got a choice one way or the other.
So, do you remember any final straw for you? Because I know we talked about like the first client and everything, but just touching on sort of before we move on from when you were employed, do you remember like a last thing where you're like, yeah, okay, this is it, I'm making my decision now?
I can't, to be honest. Like there was that many straws, I couldn't pick one to say that was the final one. I think it was the one thing that sticks out, and one thing I speak about the most is how it impacted my relationship with my son, he's 9 now. He was 5 at the time, and just started school. So doing the school run in the morning was like, it was a chore, and it wasn't because of I didn't like doing the school run. It's because I had to make sure that I was at work at a certain time, and I had to drop into breakfast club, and it's just a constant rush. And I think that just stressed me out too much. That I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. It's not worth the money. It's not worth the stress. It's not worth the effort. So that was a major factor. And like I said, seeing people get promoted that weren't as good as me at the job, was a massive thing. Was like, I'm not going to make it here. I need to go. I say those are the two things that really impacted my decision.
I've spoken to a few people who it's just purely down to freedom. So I want
Yeah,
to be able to go in at, let's say, 10 a.m. if I want to. I want to drop the kids off, and I just don't want to have to be somewhere if I don't want to.
and I feel like the way the world's changing, it's like you get people that are employed now and they're working from home, and I'm just so intrigued on how and if and when they try and tell people that they got to go back to the office, how they're going to do it, because they've all essentially all had a taste of the freedom that you have when you're an entrepreneur and you run your own business. You can somewhat manage your own day,
Mm.
when you're working from home, from what I've seen. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how you can justify bringing people back into the office to do the same job they've been doing for 12 plus months in their living room or bedroom. So I
Mm.
don't know. But
Well,
yeah,
I
the
certainly think
freedom
that
priceless.
there's an element there of the type of environment you're in. So, like for myself, I've got a 5-month-old baby, and at times that can be challenging to work effectively. But
My daughter's 2 in a couple of weeks, and at the height of that, in the mid second year of the business or third year of the business, when she came to be, her mum had to go back to work quite soon after having her. So I was at home with like a newborn, pretty much taking sales calls and all the rest of it. So I feel your pain. It's a lot. It is a lot, but again, I don't look back at that and think it's a bad thing. I'm really grateful for that, because, like I said, with my son, I was rushing about and constantly working and constantly on the go, trying to earn money for someone else. Whereas I managed to spend a lot of time with my daughter that I wouldn't have if I was in employment. She would have been shipped off to a nursery at a very young age.
that time is priceless, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it is 100%.
So, day one, you're no longer an employee. What happens on day one? What does that look like?
Panic. No, it was. You know what it is, and I've said this before. It's like it was so lonely. Like it really sets in that you're actually by yourself, because I was living in a flat at the time, and I was sat there, and I remember looking at the balcony. We lived on this main road, and I was just staring out the window and thinking, like, I'm not going to speak to anyone that day. Which, if you'd asked me if a couple months prior to that, it sounded like bliss. But I worked in a dealership, employed like over 200 people. I'm quite a sociable person when it comes to work, so I knew a lot of the people. I talked to a lot of the people, and every day it was like a boys' club. There's a lot of banter, and you can have a laugh, and you have a rapport with the customers and all the rest of it. Whereas now, bam, I'm sat there by myself, and this was my life now. And you can't really see past those first few days. you can't see your team building and your client base building, and being at a point where you don't have enough time to think because your phone's constantly going. So yeah, at that point, it was a bit. That's when reality set in. So that thing where people get worried, or most normal people, if you like, will get worried at handing their notice in on day one. That's when that reality kind of set in for me, and I started to realize that I'm here now. I've actually done this, and you're gonna have to go. But like I said, postman came and dropped that check in the post, and it kind of gave me a bit of a light at the very long end of the very long tunnel that was ahead of me.
Almost like buyer's remorse. Like,
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But then I think after I sort of had a plan with the networking side of things. I thought I'm going to just network as much as possible. At least I get to meet and speak to people that way. So that was a good a way of getting out there and actually seeing and meeting people.
would you say some of your sociability, or wanting to be social, has helped you build your team?
100%. I'm not one of them people. I'm a bit of a control freak. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not one of them people that likes to work alone per se. I like to have a team around me. So yeah, that does help. And being able to speak to people and being able to work alongside people has benefited. It's been a bit different though when it's your own business, like I said. So I like to make sure things are done a certain way, and obviously every penny that we can make is made, and it's made in the right way as well. I don't really want to be taking shortcuts and causing more problems than's needed just for an extra couple quid. So so yeah, it was beneficial, the fact that I was in the working environment that I've been in all my life, all my working life really. I've always been in sales, so it's a bit different to say being in accounts where it's not as sociable.
So, am I right in saying that you've got a physical premises, haven't you?
Yeah, we got a unit just down the road. I'm not in there today. I'm in my living room today, but yeah, we got a unit based in Cannock.
So,
We're-
how presumably before that everyone was remote. How did you make that leap from having a remote team and being remote yourself to taking on a big unit?
So my team is still remote for the most part. I work in a unit, and we have to have a unit for legal reasons. But starting off by myself, we kind of built the team during COVID. To be honest, it was just me up until March, February last year was when we started to take on more any staff. To be honest, so yeah, it was relatively easy. If I'm being honest with you, it wasn't something that I was that scared of, or really thought too much about. It was something I've always wanted to do. People were more reluctant to come on board as opposed to me being reluctant to bring people on board, because again, it was this virtual business, and it was a bit sci-fi, I guess, in some people's opinion, that knew the motor trade. I was trying to get experienced people to come and work with me, whereas I've now gone down the route of getting people that don't know the trade and trying to train them up.
Mm.
So they're a bit more open-minded, and they understand what I'm trying to do a bit more than people that have spent years in the dealership.
So people have got some preconceived notions of what it means, and you've actually had to go to people who don't have any um,
Yeah,
self-imposed limitations about what is possible.
exactly, and that's what I've noticed. And but the weird thing is that the trade's changed completely in the last 6 to 12 months. Um, and now people that didn't get it before are understanding it now, and they want to be involved now. But at the point, it's like a slow. It's become more intense over the last few months, especially when the second lockdown came. Um, but before that, people were still like, dealerships will be open again. Doesn't really make sense. People are going to want to test drive their cars and all the rest of it. And it is hard. We are still learning on the job. But like I said, when people have never worked in the motor trade, they're open to the idea because this is how we do it, and that's how they learn.
Well, you mentioned, or we talked briefly about your marketing approach,
Mhm.
social media marketing versus traditional marketing. Would you mind telling me about what your approach is there?
It was for me. It was definitely something I learned when I was in the dealership. Now I look at the market from cars in quite a segmented way. You've got the older generation, which I'm falling into slowly, Like you get the 40 plus, maybe even 50 plus actually, that are coming to that age of retirement and they're not really bothered about changing their car as frequently and all the rest of it. They're more the type that will want to go into a dealership and test drive and touch and feel the car. And then you got the younger generation who are like 25 plus. As a as a someone in the motor trade, for me, they're the ideal clientele because they'll buy a car every 3 to 4 years. They'll be a repeat customer. They've got money to spend, more money than ever now. People are working out more and more ways to earn money, regardless of what situation we're in with the pandemic, for example. And I noticed in around 2017, when you got things like Uber was starting to really become big. Just Eat was there. Uber Eats wasn't around just yet. Deliveroo was slowly seeping in certain cities. Um, that more and more people wanted to do stuff online. They wanted to buy online. They wanted to be able to shop online. You wouldn't be able to, like motor trade, it's got a bad name for it because they used to be able to rip people off, to be totally honest with you. But now buyers are becoming a bit more savvy. They were looking online, doing research. They were understanding things they didn't understand before. You literally have people sat at your desk in the dealership shopping on Auto Trader whilst you're trying to sell them a car. So it wasn't as cloak and dagger as it was back in the day. So I just realized that if these people, the younger generation are coming up and they're becoming car buyers, and they're so in tune with social media and the internet, basically, why are dealerships not on there? And I don't think the motor traders really got that even now. They're slowly getting there, but I think we still are ahead of the curve. And there's a few of us that are ahead of the curve that we see that the younger generation are open to buying stuff like cars online. If you look at Purple Bricks, for instance, I sold a flat for my mum online purely through this website, Purple Bricks. And people say, why would you buy it? The person spent six figures on a property that they never saw until the day that they actually got the keys and they signed it all over. But she was in her 20s and that she was her first property, and that's just how they do things. And that's how her children are going to do things, and her children's children are going to do things. So I think it's important to be able to have some sort of social media presence. Because let's face it, if you're not online, you look at companies like Primark, for instance, who, I don't know if you shop in Primark, but you go to some of them, they're like a war zone when they're open on a busy Saturday. People everywhere, money flying all over the place. They're taking millions per day. But then COVID-19 hit and they couldn't make a penny. And I understand their business model means they can't necessarily sell online, but if you don't have an online model and a social media presence, and you're not able to market online and more importantly sell online, something like the pandemic happens and you're shut down. And a lot of people in our industry, they panicked. They didn't know what they were going to do. Dealers were closing, people working from home. And I was excited because I've been doing what they were trying to do for years at that point. 3 years in selling cars from my laptop. Like I said, on the first day, that April the 1st, 2017, I was sat in my living room selling cars from my mobile phone and my laptop, trying to work out how to do this. So I was 3 years ahead of these multi-million-pound companies. Because I kind of saw that it's going to be an online thing that's gonna be the way forward. And I've just got a love for social media. I was one of them people that was on Facebook all day, every day when Facebook was cool. And I'm on Instagram probably more than I should be now. MySpace was something that I indulged in as well. I just think it's a good way of keeping in touch with people from a social presence. And if someone like me is on there all day, why would you not want to put your brand on their timeline? If you do it the right way, if you can communicate the right way, you can put your message across in a certain way, they'll come knocking. And people will come and speak to me on a daily basis based off content they've seen on the internet.
What would you say is the marketing approach to traditional businesses that you worked in previously?
Balloons and bunting. That's what it is. If it's a sunny day in the motor trade, they'll open the hatch. Then when they're open again, I guarantee you'll see it. You'll think back. How many times you drove past the dealership and they've got the hatchbacks, the hatch up, balloons and bunting. That was their marketing strategy. and loads of adverts. I remember I worked for a company called whereabouts in the country are you?
I'm in Worthing, so near Brighton.
Okay, I don't know if they had one. They had the Loot, maybe newspaper. It's like a newspaper of adverts, basically. So some of the listeners will probably remember the Loot or Bargain Pages if you're in the West Midlands or up north. I worked for that company. In that was a company, last company I worked for that wasn't in the motor trade, and you'd get car dealers will call up every week and they'd spend hundreds of pounds on these adverts, and they'd stick them in a newspaper because that's what worked in 1999, and they're going to carry on doing it in 2017. But little did they know, and I can say this now because the company no longer exists, the newspapers would just come into our office and they were sat in our office, or they'd go to the newsagents and they'll stay on the shelf and no one will buy them. I guarantee majority of the motor trade clients that we had at Bargain Pages never made a penny off their adverts, but they had no way of tracking it. It's not as clever as social media, where you can go and look at the analytics and you can see how many people clicked on the advert and how many people purchased something or contacted your company because of that said advert. You can't have a billboard on an A road and see how many eyes looked at your billboard. And even still, if you were to stand on the corner of said A road and look and see what people are doing, you've got the driver that looking at the road and sometimes being naughty and looking at his phone, whilst his partner is sat in the passenger seat, and what's she doing? She's got her head down looking at her phone, and the kids are in the back, all got their head down looking at their phone. Or you can go on traditional. If you've got really loads of money, go on TV. But what happens when the break comes on Coronation Street? If you watch that live anyway, you pull your phone out and you start tweeting about it, or the football, you start tweeting about football, or go into your WhatsApp group and start talking to your friends about what's happening. No one watches adverts no more. And this is what people are doing traditionally. And I don't see it as, for what it's worth as well. The amount of, I would guarantee that the amount I've spent on Facebook adverts in the last 3 months, I've got more views and more interaction from that than if I was to put an advert on TalkSport, for instance. But it's going to cost me a percentage of what it would cost me to have an advert on TalkSport. People think it's great. I'll be like, oh, Tom, yeah, I've got an advert on TalkSport. And you think, oh, it's amazing. Wow. But it's not doing nothing for me other than giving me bragging rights. And maybe one or two people that know me that hear it will be like, oh, I heard your brand on TalkSport. It doesn't make sense to me anymore.
It's underpriced on social when it's overpriced on old traditional methods, basically.
Yeah. Let's not talk too loud about it being underpriced on social yet. But it's going to go up, and it slowly is, because the bigger brands are starting to cotton on. Not so long ago, you wouldn't see any big brands advertising on social media. It was all just sticking to traditional, because they've got marketing executives working for them that are paid big money to put together TV adverts. Whereas now you can get a guy to walk around, like if you're Coca-Cola, drinking, you can pay an influencer to drink Coke whilst driving his car, and he'll put more people's eyes on your brand than the advert that your marketing exec's getting paid 50 to 100k per year to design. And it's not good for them as an individual, but for the actual brand, social media is the way forward. Because like I said, the older we get and the older I get, the less I'm spending. The people spending money are on social media.
Have you considered doing any influencer stuff?
I have done.
To influence
we have done influencer stuff. Learned a harsh lesson that it's got to be the right influencer. It's got to be someone that speaks to the audience you're trying to target, not necessarily go for the numbers, because you can have someone that gets you thousands of followers, but if the followers aren't really doing anything as far as like trying to interact and help your business by spending with you, basically, then it doesn't really make sense. But influencer market, it's like we do that anyway. I'm a football fan, so I supported Arsenal as a kid, and I like JVC. They're not a great electronic brand, but as a 10-year-old, I wanted a JVC TV because Stephen Wright had it on his T-shirt. That was it. And so it's nothing to do with their TV adverts or all the rest of it. It's because my favorite footballer at the time was an influence on my buying decision. I wanted Nike football boots because he wore Nike football boots, and it's not new. The influencer marketing, it's not something that's just become with social media. It's just that's where it's at the moment.
So, one of the things I was going to ask you about was your organic Instagram approach. I think a lot of people struggle to do well on Instagram. Other than the influencer stuff, what would you say your approach is that people can learn from?
Just try and be by organic. You mean that I know you mean organic reach. So you're not paying for the adverts. You're not paying the influencer. You're not putting money in Zuckerberg's pocket by paying for the sponsored adverts. You're just naturally getting people in gravitate to your work. But I would say be organic in your content as well. So if you want if you want it to be received organically, you got to put something out that's organic. So be yourself, and don't try and copy someone else or be the fake version of you, the Instagram version of you. Just be yourself, because someone will gravitate to you that way. There's always going to be someone that can connect with you, and you're true who you are. Because I'm Gavin and you're Thomas. So, but if me and you have something in common, I'm naturally going to gravitate to you and your brand because of that. And I won't need to see a sponsored advert or be told by an influencer that Tom's cool, I should listen to his podcast. I'd listen to a podcast, I hear something, and I want to hear more of it because of what you're saying and your natural tone and conversation.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite of what a lot of people are known for on Instagram. But I think people are, like you say, people are becoming wise to that sort of thing, aren't they? The
It's
fakeness
so
of Instagram.
it's getting called out, and I kind of like it, but that was my issue with Instagram, because the personal brand thing was not something that I was necessarily wanting to do, because I felt the same, that you had to be fake, you had to every day be happy, and especially as an entrepreneur, like I think it's just horrible. But we're cool at the moment. Being an entrepreneur is cool. Whereas back in, even when like I said, when I quit, people were laughing at me. What are you doing? Why would you do that? But now it's the thing to be. Whereas the reality of being an entrepreneur is that it's not easy. It's a lot of it's emotional roller coaster. It could be headache, it could be stress. Like you said, you got a 5-month-old baby to deal with. It's not, when you're working and you got a 5-month-old, you could take a 12-hour break every day by going to work. But when you're in the world of building a business, you got to deal with life and business at 24/7 basically. And they don't show you that on social media. So I think for me personally, with my personal brand, I'm trying to show more of that, tell more of a story. Having conversations like this with people like yourself is important, because there's a lot of fakery out there. But I think, like you said, people are cottoning on. So if you want to be lasting, don't get me wrong, you can be fake today and show that you're a millionaire, and if you can sustain that for 6 months, then you'll have a good 6-month run. But eventually people will start realizing that actually that's not your house. It's available on Airbnb, so you must be renting and so on and so forth. But you'll get a longer run, and you'll get a more successful run, in my opinion, if you are just yourself and you're organic and you do things that are natural.
Mm. So I can certainly see the cause and effect behind why you've done well. But what would you say is or have been some of the major challenges along the way, and how have you overcome them?
My biggest challenge, I think, and it's still, I'll be honest, it's still something I'm working on, is the self-belief thing. Like I was saying with the personal brand, I've had to accept that people. My business coach said to me that you can be inspiring, and I was like, I'm not inspiring because I'm not Richard Branson, or I'm not like a Lord Sugar or anything like that. And she said, but there's a middle part. There's people that have just started out or want to start, and they don't know how to start, and they'll be looking up to you. So I feel like that was something that I needed to really have a word with myself about, and be a bit more confident in telling my story, and being believing in myself, and realizing what you're doing. Because I feel like when you're building a business, and through the journey that like the one I'm on at the moment, you get so caught up in what to do next that you forget to realize what you've actually achieved and how much you've actually done, so to speak. So everyone else could see how well you're doing, But for me, with my mentality, because I've not achieved what I want to achieve, I've not done nothing. Like I might as well be at day one again, sat in my flat, mentally. So that's a battle, and that's been the biggest challenge has been within. To be honest, it's not been trying to get partners. It's not been trying to get sales or anything like that. Those things are challenging. Don't get me wrong, but the biggest challenge has been like a battle within myself.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of things on that. One of which being if you're always looking forward and not looking at where you've come from, then you're always going to be, you know, your perception is going to be that you're struggling because if you've got lofty goals and you're nowhere near them, then your approach is going to be, oh, I've got such a long way to
So
go.
far to go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you never realize how far you've gone. It's
Mm.
crazy. It's like a I don't know. It's like when when you're using a sat nav. Um, you put in a destination and it tells you what time you're going to arrive as soon as you get there, as soon as you start. Sorry, so you kind of can count down. But when you don't know what time or when you're going to arrive at your destination, doesn't matter how many miles you've got behind you. You're just going to be constantly trying to trying to guess when am I actually going to get there. And if you keep hitting traffic jams and roadblocks and all the rest of it, it can be a lot to take on mentally. But I guess sometimes you do need to reflect. It's going to be healthy to reflect and look back and see how far you've come, and it can actually help you with your journey if you do that.
So have you got any, for the people who are totally in the same position, what have you tried to do to approach that problem? What would you share with them?
I think for me personally, the most important thing is the people around me, and just talking, just trying to. I think a lot of people, like I said, entrepreneurship is a lonely place because not everyone does it, and not everyone's fortunate enough to be around other entrepreneurs and business owners that can actually relate and understand. But just try and speak to people, even if it is like family members that maybe don't understand totally. But when they say you're doing well and all the rest of it, explain to them your viewpoint and how you see it, and then try and find a balance between that. I think communication is the best way. Self-reflection and just actually just sitting with yourself and understanding how far you came is good. And one thing I've been encouraged to do and I'm trying to do is also celebrate the little wins, um, because that's a very good habit because then it's I don't know, it does something to your mentality when you realize actually I am doing something, I am achieving. I'm not a failure because I've not got 100 million in my bank just yet. And and it's crazy when you think about that. You could be a millionaire and still think you haven't really got anything because you haven't hit your goal of 1 billion.
I think that's not that uncommon.
Yeah, that's
I
what I'm
mean, it
saying.
sounds crazy, but
It does sound crazy, but these are the things. So I look at like my parents. My parents are both born in Jamaica, and I go when I've been back to Jamaica and I see the poverty that's there. I'm so fortunate, and it's seeing someone in a worse position that makes me realize how fortunate I am. And sometimes I do have to look, and I look back at where I was when I started, and before I even started in the motor trade, and how hard life was then compared to now. If I had told, and I always say to myself, if I had told myself in 2017 I'll be in the position that I'm in now, what would I would have snapped my. That person told me that's what you got, but you got to go through this process. I would have snapped their hand off. But sometimes I'm in the position I'm in now, and I don't feel satisfied because I'm not where I want to be, or not where I could be in 2025, for instance. And it's not always healthy.
100% agree. On the note of where you want to be, are you willing to share what your goals are?
Yeah, they've changed. When I was younger, and when I started out, it was all about money. And the more I achieve and the more I can, like, the world opens up to me, so to speak, I can realize that it's not even about money or monetary goals. It's more about doing things to change, to impact the world. And as cliche as that may sound, it's actually the truth. I want to be able to change the motor trade. I want to be able to help people with the way they buy cars. I think if cars were more expensive, that we would have gone seeing what we've seen in the property market in 2008, was it? With the crash, we would see that with the motor trade because people are spending ridiculous amount of monies and making stupid mistakes with vehicles. So I kind of want to help people in that sense. Build a platform where some of the issues in society that are close to my heart, try and spread some more awareness with that, and yeah, just make an impact and just be seen as someone that actually done something with the world, other than made loads of money and bought a big house and nice cars.
What are some of the issues that are important to you?
We're working on a campaign. So correct who you would have spoke to. Me and her and another lady called Jen are working on a campaign for sickle cell. It's something it's an illness that's obviously rife within the Black community all around the world, and we're just trying to build some more awareness towards that. Raise some money.
The heart, is it?
It's to do with blood. It's to do with the red and white blood cells.
Okay.
And even still, like that in itself, I should know that, but I don't have enough knowledge, and this is the part of the problem. So we need to build a bit more awareness, both in the UK and there's a clinic in Jamaica we're trying to work with. We're at the very beginning stages of that, just trying to build awareness, raise some money to help fund more awareness in the UK and help some of the patients that can't afford to be treated in Jamaica. And then giving back to the younger generation, I'm very much about the next generation and trying to educate them on how to become entrepreneurs. Because I feel like with the internet, if I had the internet when I was like 17, 18, I'd be up there with Zuckerberg right now. It's crazy, the opportunities that are here right now. So up until Wednesday, I was talking on a panel to some young people, 17 years old, and some of the ideas they have and the way they're trying to execute them with entrepreneurship is just amazing. So yeah, just trying to give back and do as much as I can there. Got a course that we're working on, try and release a course for people in secondary school to start a small business. Not that I'm trying to be a lecturer, but like the basics, like you can build a logo, you can register your company, you can have a website, some social media presence, a very basic marketing strategy. Just teaching them that, and then you never know, might get the next I don't know, Kanye West out of them and make some new Yeezys.
Congratulations on all that.
Appreciate it.
Have you got anything that you'd like to share that you feel is important and we haven't covered today?
Not really. No, I mean, I think we covered it all, to be honest. And I just think anyone that's listening that might be in a position that they're starting out or they might be struggling, especially with all that's gone on during this pandemic, I always say to never give up. There's been a lot of days when I've just thought, why am I doing this? Why am I waking up and putting myself through this? But I naturally am now in a position that everything I do is to do with building the business, and my lifestyle is building the business now. My phone only rings from people that want to know something about a car, which is a bit sad when I think about it. But yeah, it's a never give up attitude, because I honestly believe that the only way you fail is if you quit. I've tried things before. Like I said, I've wanted to be in the position I'm in now for many years, literally as long as I can remember. And things I've tried before, I only failed in them because I gave up. And a lot of them I could have been successful in if I had the same mentality that I have now. And that's a sort of never quit, never say die attitude.
Well, I think that's certainly of value. Before we close off, do you have an exit strategy for the business?
I don't, and I'm working with a mentor that I'm trying to work on that now. I think the natural thing or the right thing to say is that to build it to a point where I can sell it for loads of money and then run off into the hills. But I don't know if I'll be able to. I think it's my baby that I've built from scratch. So it would feel like I was giving one of my children away. But that would probably be what it's going to be. The exit strategy is probably going to be get it to a point where I need to, where I can sell it for a decent amount and then go on to the next project and reinvest that money into something else.
Well, it can be. I spoke to someone previously where she said that she had exited, but in the sense that it functions completely without her now. So you could still be owner of the business and just it works without you.
And that's kind of where I think I'm going to lean to, where it's still mine. I can come in, And it's, the idea of me having some big HQ and working on this for years and having this big office somewhere in the UK, and then one day not be allowed in there without being invited, it just kind of hurts me. So yeah, if I can go and lay on a beach all day and the business runs itself, but when I feel like it, I can go and sit in a boardroom that's never really used by me, then yeah, I think I'll feel a bit better about it. But you're right, and some people sell and they love being part of the business, so they'll be on the board of directors and still have an influence in which way the company goes. There's lots of options, but it's something that I would recommend looking at as early as possible, earlier than where I'm at in my business, to be honest. But it's not something I have done. It's something I sort of overlooked and working on at the moment.
But if you do decide on that, if you're willing, do share it with me because I'd be interested to know.
100%, definitely.
Gavin Cameron, where is the best place for people to find you?
Probably Instagram. I'm on there, like I said, more than I should be. At Mr. Gavin Cameron on Instagram. So give me a follow there. You can find my business page on my profile there as well. And there's a load of links in my bio. So yeah, at Mr. Gavin Cameron on Instagram is probably the best place to find me. And carbuyingguru.co.uk is the business website.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all the value you provided today. I love the story.
You're welcome, Tom. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And I'll speak to you soon.